Sophia will recount how I took control of my life and finally put an end to my husband Xander's destructive influence. For privacy reasons, I'll be using pseudonyms. As a prominent lawyer in my state, I must remain anonymous, not only for professional reasons but also to protect myself from the chaos that Xander's actions once brought into my life. Let's not dwell on the sweetness of how we met or the early days of our marriage. Those days, though beautiful, were fleeting illusions. We fell in love, got married, built a life together, or so I thought, and then, like a house of cards, everything collapsed. The love I believed was mutual turned out to be one-sided. Xander had been unfaithful for months before I even suspected it. At first, the signs were subtle: late nights at the office, vague business trips that seemed to grow longer each month, and an increasing emotional distance between us. He'd brush off my questions with a casual, "Just work, Sophia," or "Don't worry so much," but beneath that calm exterior, I could feel something was wrong. Though I was a successful lawyer, Xander often mocked my career. He owned a sizable business, and his ego thrived on comparisons. To him, my success didn't matter because I didn't earn as much as he did. It wasn't about love anymore, it was about power, status, and control. Then came the night that changed everything. He was supposedly away on another business trip. I sat alone in our large, cold house, surrounded by silence. Something inside me snapped. I decided to stop pretending. I pulled out his old laptop, the one he hadn't used in months, and began searching. What I found made my blood run cold. A secret Facebook account, hidden messages, pictures, affectionate words that weren't meant for me. The woman was stunning, everything Xander had claimed I wasn't. He had criticized my appearance for years, subtly chipping away at my confidence until I barely recognized the woman in the mirror. Now I saw the reason behind those cruel remarks. He had found someone else to adore, and he made sure I felt small enough to never question it. That night, I confronted him. "Xander," I said, holding my phone tightly, "are you cheating on me? I have proof." He didn't even flinch. Instead, he smirked. "Sophia, you're just not that interesting anymore. You spend all your time on those pointless cases and forget that I exist. What do you expect me to do? You're not a supermodel, you can't expect to keep me entertained forever." I was stunned. "What are you talking about, Xander? You knew I had a demanding job when you married me. I haven't neglected you, it's you who stopped coming home, who refused to talk." But he just shrugged, as if my pain didn't matter. That's when I realized the man standing before me wasn't the man I had fallen in love with. His next words were even colder. "Good that you found out, Sophia. At least now I don't have to hide anymore. I'll divorce you and marry my girlfriend. She's beautiful, and she understands me, unlike you." Those words sliced through me like a blade. For over a decade, I had loved him, supported him, sacrificed for him, and he dismissed it all with a sneer. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "How could you say that? I've stood by you through everything." He looked at me with disdain. "Sophia, you're just not right for me anymore. I'm a successful businessman now. A woman with average looks and a pretentious law degree won't do me any good." I wanted to scream, to ask him why he had become so cruel, but instead, I just stood there, numb. He ended the conversation with a final blow. "I'm not contemplating divorce, Sophia. I've already decided. I've hired a great lawyer. You'd better move out before I get back. I don't want to see your ugly face again." Hours later, his friend showed up at my door with the divorce papers. The sympathy in his eyes only deepened my humiliation. I shut the door behind him and collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. I had wasted years of my life on a man who saw me as disposable. But amid the heartbreak, something inside me shifted. The tears dried, replaced by a cold determination. I wasn't going to let Xander destroy me. I was a lawyer, I was intelligent, resourceful, and I had every intention of fighting back. When his friend mentioned that Xander planned to draw out the divorce, I was confused at first. Then I remembered the prenuptial agreement, one that Xander himself had insisted upon years ago. He had wanted to protect his assets, but in his arrogance, he had added a clause that favored me. If he ever cheated, I would be entitled to half of his business. So that's why he wanted to delay the process. He hoped I'd give up or forget what was rightfully mine. I wasn't going to let that happen. Within 48 hours, I moved out of his house and back into my childhood home, still in my name. I texted him one final message. "I took my ugly face and body out of your damn house." He replied smugly, "Good, I'm glad you've come to your senses. Don't make a scene." My lawyer is handling everything. I stared at his message, then typed back calmly. I'll see you in court, and I'm not giving up what's mine. The next day, I contacted his lawyer, Jake, and requested a meeting. We agreed to meet at a local cafe. When I walked in, Jake looked startled. He clearly hadn't expected me. Ma'am, Sophia, he stammered, trying to compose himself. Yes, I replied smoothly. I'm the wife. I thought it would be better to discuss this directly. He fumbled with his notebook. Your husband said you might, drag out the case. Really? I smiled faintly. He said that? Because he's the one who's trying to stall. Isn't that what he told you? Jake hesitated, avoiding my gaze. Don't worry, I said gently, you don't have to answer. I've known Xander for over a decade. He's predictable. He always underestimates people, especially women. Jake looked uneasy, so I continued. I'll make this simple for you. Did Xander tell you that he cheated on me? Jake blinked in surprise. No, he didn't mention that. Of course he didn't, I said, handing him a neatly organized folder. These are the messages, photos, and emails proving the affair. And here, I added, sliding another document toward him, is our prenuptial agreement. His face paled as he scanned the pages. There's a prenup? There is, and it clearly states that if Xander is unfaithful, I'm entitled to half of his business. I trust that won't be difficult to enforce. Jake swallowed hard, flipping through the evidence. I had no idea, ma'am. He never told me any of this. I figured as much, I replied calmly. I don't envy your position. It's never easy to work with a dishonest client, especially when the opposing counsel knows him better than anyone else. Jake looked defeated. You're right, ma'am. I think I need to speak with my client before moving forward, but if I may say so, you handled this remarkably. I smiled faintly. Thank you, Jake. Tell Xander that Sophia may have been broken once, but she's not broken anymore. As I walked out of that cafe, the air felt different, lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of Xander or his power. I had faced him and taken back control of my life. And this time, I wasn't the woman he could silence. I was the woman he would regret ever underestimating. I could tell exactly what Jake was hinting at, but I didn't gloat, not then. I thanked him for his time, slipped the folder back into my bag, and walked out of the cafe with a steady, controlled stride. For the first time since that phone call, the fog that had clouded my thoughts cleared completely. Sadness didn't vanish so much as it hardened into something else, a cold, efficient rage that had nothing to do with melodrama and everything to do with resolve. I went straight to the office and began preparing my own documents. Every line I drafted, every exhibit I organized, felt like a small act of reclamation. It took Xander a day to break his own rule about not contacting me. That didn't surprise me. Men like him always underestimated how fast a person they thought they could walk over could move. When his number lit up my phone, I didn't feel a flutter of fear, I felt curiosity. When I answered, his tone was furious, brittle. What the hell did you tell my lawyer, Sophia? Don't call me, you told me not to contact you. What did you do with your lawyer? He barked. I kept my voice cool. Stop with the theatrics. Tell me why your lawyer quit today. Quit? His anger faltered into confusion. He didn't quit. You're imagining things. You're not bright, are you? I said. You told him different stories. Maybe you forgot to mention the prenup and the affair. Small details. People notice when a client misleads them. For a few seconds he cursed under his breath, then switched to threats. I'll hire someone better. I'll have you ruined in court. You'll come crawling to me begging. I let a soft laugh slip out. Good luck with that. And here's a piece of friendly legal advice. Tell your new lawyer about the affair and the prenup before they take your money. It'll save them embarrassment. He hung up. The line went dead, and I almost smiled. He was swimming in trouble and didn't even know how to tread water. A week later, there was a knock at my door one morning. I opened it to find Xander standing there, less polished, all the arrogance stripped away. The expensive suit was rumpled. There was a hollow set to his eyes I hadn't seen before. He looked small. For a moment I felt nothing but an odd, detached pity, then annoyance at being interrupted. Make it quick, I said. We agreed lawyers would handle everything. He took a step inside, shame and desperation dominating his expression. I can't find a lawyer who'll take my case, he blurted. They all tell me the prenup is airtight. They saw the evidence. Please, Sophia, you don't have to do this. Don't make me split the business. He was begging. It sounded ridiculous coming from him. You lied to your lawyers, I said flatly, folding my arms. You failed to disclose key facts, so now you're surprised they won't represent someone they can't trust. I didn't sabotage anything. You dug this pit yourself. He tried to shift blame. You've been sabotaging your incompetence, Xander, I interrupted. That's the problem. If you hadn't lied or cheated, none of this would be happening. Don't play the victim now. He pleaded, wheedling for mercy. He promised to end the affair, swore he'd changed, suggested we could maybe try again. He painted the mistress as a phase he'd regret. For a heartbeat he sounded sincere, the practiced remorse of someone who thought words were currency. I had heard that performance before and paid for it with years. Stop, I said finally. I am not going back. You made your choice. His begging only reinforced the truth. He wanted what I represented, not me, but the control and assets he stood to lose. After that meeting, his behavior became a mix of frantic lawyer shopping and humiliating appeals. He tried to buy sympathy, calling mutual friends, promising payoffs, offering to cut deals. No one who knew the truth, or anyone who respected themselves, wanted to be on his retainer. Reputation matters in our circles, and my name carries weight. That protected me in ways I hadn't realized until he started bargaining with the few who still returned his calls. I instructed my firm to assign a divorce attorney who specialized in high-asset cases. I didn't handle the litigation myself. I chose distance on purpose. Emotionally, I wanted to be present enough to steer strategy but not so close that the process would consume me. My lawyer took the lead, and I handed over the files I'd compiled, messages, photos, the hidden account, bank statements showing the diversion of funds, everything a judge would need to see. We were meticulous. Every I was dotted, every T crossed. Weeks passed and the pressure built. Xander's game plan of delay collapsed under legal reality. The prenup was plain, the evidence incontrovertible, and the more he tried to spin a story, the worse he looked. Lawyers would not take a client who lied about the most relevant facts of his marriage. Those who did initially take his calls backed away once they saw the paperwork or met the opposing counsel. He'd effectively burned bridges by being untruthful and reckless. So he pivoted to apology. He begged. He promised buyouts he couldn't afford. He offered to sign over assets if I wouldn't pursue half the business. But the truth is, I no longer cared about punishing him out of spite. I wanted the life he had tried to deny me, the fair share, the financial security, and the quiet dignity of knowing I had not been a fool. When the final settlement came, the prenup did its work. Xander signed away half of the business. He grumbled and stormed, but when push came to shove he had no viable path left. His finances were a mess. The mistress, it turns out, was not the lifeline he expected. She had long since moved on when the money looked like it would be gone. Rumors about her appetite for wealth circulated, and suddenly she became a liability. Xander had spent recklessly. His liquidity was shot. To hold the business he had to buy me out, and he could not. There was a small, private moment after the papers were signed that I will always remember. We were in a sterile conference room, sunlight slicing across polished wood. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw something like regret. Small and useless. He tried, then, to blame circumstance, to minimize his choices. I let him. I had nothing to prove to him anymore. After the divorce, I put my lawyer's mind and my business sense to work. I appointed a trusted manager to run my share of the company and used the combined income to shore up my practice. I upgraded my life not out of spite but because I deserved it. New home, comfortable staff, a schedule that allowed late dinners and real sleep. My work flourished. My reputation, never my weakness, became my armor and my advantage. Xander's descent was not theatrical, but it was steady. He sold the house, moved to a modest condo, and learned quickly that status built on deception collapses under scrutiny. He tried to rebuild, to flirt with old comforts, but without the network, and without the money, his options were thin. If I had any lingering malice, I buried it. My satisfaction came from living well and honestly, not from watching him suffer. Looking back, the divorce was less a battle than a reclaiming. The humiliation and the heartbreak were real, but so was my capacity to transform them into fuel. I had once been underestimated by the man I loved. I left him with his choices, and I kept mine. If you want, I can continue. There's a scene where I testify at a shareholder meeting, or another where I sit quietly at night, reflecting on how small acts of bravery rebuilt the life that cheating tried to steal. Which do you want next?